This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome. This podcast clip comes from an interview with Ryan Buckle from Top Shelf International. Yeah, definitely. So just building on what you were saying, you're quite across a lot of the stuff that the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute promotes, and the laws of basically marketing and how consumers behave. So you and your team are across that knowledge. Did you find any difficulties or any barriers about getting other parts of the organisation on board, perhaps the sales team or the accounting team or the management team or the people in R&D? And if so, how did you manage to bring them on board?
Yeah, I think just to build on your earlier point of a COVID reflection is a lot of category growth that I've seen is from more live buyers coming in. So that's the evidence point to say that that's how the expandability happens and how brands can grow. So it's interesting how that's happened. I think people just buying more categories too when you're sort of locked up in a home environment. I think the biggest challenge within an organisation is to get people to think like a consumer. When you work in a FMCG branded goods business, it's hard because you're never a consumer again. You're some weird mutated sort of half manufacturing led, and it's easy to think try and convince yourself that you want to think like a consumer. And the reality is it's just bloody hard. In some of the categories I work in, or have worked in, the purchase decision is 8 seconds. That's walking to the fixture, buying and getting out of there. You're not sitting there looking at every single label or the cat colours or all of that stuff or what it might be saying on the front of the pack. So I think firstly is you're not a consumer.
Yeah. And
helping people to understand what a consumer looks like. So I often find, videos are a really good thing. Even so, you could argue that people that come to research. I'm not a big fan of groups, but they're even a little bit sort of mutated as well. But if you just go into a store and watch people, they're not doing all the things that you think a consumer is looking for, right? They're often, I watched a lady, might have been in the deli the other day, but it was one of those open air delis, and it was quite cold, close to the store, and she was literally shopping from about 10 metres back and then saw what she wanted and just went bang in there, grabbed it and gone, and there was a kid in the trolley and it was screaming, and I was like, far out, this is the consumer's life. So the first thing is go and have a look at how people do it. We did this thing a couple of years ago. It's one of the most insightful things I've ever done in FMCG, but it's called an accompanied shop where you sort of get $150 budget, because most Australians are living on about $150 a week worth of groceries, 40%. So I reckon the big retailers worked it out in the early piece. So you turn up the night before, you get a brief. It's an actual family somewhere. And then you turn up to a big supermarket or a big shopping centre, probably pre-COVID. And then you've got 45 minutes to do the family shop, but the brief's got all the information that you need, right? So what they like, what they don't like, what you're shopping for, breakfast, lunches for the kids, dinners, all of those things. It is, and it's you've got 45 minutes, right? Because that's meant to be reflective of what it's like. And it is so stressful, Zac. I can't tell you. For someone that doesn't really pay attention to what I'm doing when I'm in a supermarket, you walk in there and first thing you realise, you see a lot of red and yellow tickets, right? Because you're far out. I'm going to buy 5 days worth of food. I've got $150. So you're flying around the supermarket. First thing I did was rang my mum straight away. It's the biggest cheat ever. She's buy mince because you can make tacos and you can do spaghetti bolognese and you can do all these things. And then you get upstairs, after you've sweated running around, and things that you might find immaterial, but you go far out, you spent $150, you've got to put some items back. And it's an embarrassing thing to do, Then you get upstairs and then the family's there. And you've just bought their shopping for the week and they're critiquing you.
Oh, wow.
And it's just wow. And then, the story at the end of it's you give them the groceries, but then they might say, oh, geez, look, I had an accident in the car last week and I had to put 2 new tyres on the car and I wasn't quite sure how it was all going to sort of come together this week. So it's one of those perspective moments where you go, out, there is, and why value is so important is because it's very well. So then when you're in that pressure cooker environment, it's amazing how quickly you move. you've got to get this thing done. You might have 10 of your colleagues in the store with you as well, and you see each other in the aisles. You're like, oh, got to go. Like, you're looking at the clock going, I've got to get back upstairs in like 45 minutes, otherwise this is going to be an epic failure. So that is another really cool way to sort of build perspective too. And then, I mean, we obviously do a bit with you guys, but just trying to take people on the curve of what it's actually like. How many brands people are buying, how infrequently they're coming into the category. What are some of the things that really make the biggest difference? So the reason it's important is then you're focusing on the right activities from a marketing perspective, which is we need to invest in weeks on air in advertising. We need to make sure that the products are good, not too good, so that people can't afford them or that you don't make any money.
Yeah.
And then just know that you be privileged enough to get part of a repertoire rather than, something that someone's going to buy every single week.
Yeah.
So I think it's they're probably the things that I would try and focus on. And then you're forever in case study mode, right? See, we did this happened. This is because this, and this. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, good. Do that again. And I'm like, I'll try to. But I think they're the kind of bits and pieces that sort of culminate in an influence in an organisation that sort of takes you from you're not a consumer. That is the rule. You are not a consumer. You are a ambassador for a big food company that thinks that you're a consumer, and it's a bad spot to be.
Yeah.
I remember the old Mars CMO who I was referencing before, but he kind of did it in a way about hand washing theory when they used to try and to get rid of illnesses, they used to try and drain people's blood. And then it basically worked out that if you wash your hands, you were going to vanquish 95% of the germs. But it was just a demonstration of what science does in terms of how it can change the way that people might view the world. So they're probably some of the things that I would do. But that, if you've never done that $150 shop and you're working with a sponsor of the Institute and they're a big food company, it's a really fascinating thing to do because it is like intense.
It sounds intense. And the fact that there's a family on the other end who's going to...
Oh, yeah. But you don't know. So I'm probably telling you more than you should know, but I think it was a watershed moment for why prices and range and all that stuff really matter.
Yeah. Hey, guys. It's Zac Anesbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zac Anesbury. That is ZACANESBURY for my take on the marketing issues of the day.